Hello everyone and welcome back to another week here at the Damage Report. Today is Monday and it's a very special day for two reasons. One is that we're gonna be talking about royalty, which I would not have expected. But the other, perhaps even more important, is that we have royalty. Francesca Fiorentini.
That's right.
Herself.
I'm royal. I am Royal Dragon. Hello. I'm being told to wave like this. I only do what is being said to me in my earpiece. Yes, we are not racist, for the record. What's up, John? It's International Women's Day, so shout out to all the ladies. That's not how you're supposed to do it, but
I don't think I should do it that way. I think that might create a bit of an incident. But anyway, I'm very glad to have this particular lady on the show today. We're gonna be talking about other ladies and other news. Today on the show, we're gonna be talking about the stimulus bill, which sort of passed. The possible future of the filibuster. Is there a chance? Mitch McConnell's slimy little tactics. Like we said, we're gonna be talking about the royals, and the right has found something that might be worse than burning books, maybe? Hard to say, but we're gonna evaluate it on the show. Before we launch into all of that, how was the Bitchwation room yesterday?
Oh, it was so good. We had this guest on. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's like the co-host of the Majority Report.
I don't know who you speak of, nor will I listen. Yeah,
Emma.
Oh, I see. Oh, so Emma can still go on shows apparently, huh?
Yeah, just not shows she was once on. She can speak freely. Yeah, no, it was great. It was great to have Emma Vigeland on, and we talked all about the stimulus bill and what else? A lot of different things. Lots of good stuff. So definitely check that out. Wherever you get your podcasts.
Awesome. And today's Monday. The third reason it's exciting is that this is the day of the week that Francesca and I do our weekly top 10 list. Which as of right now is available exclusively to our tier 2 and tier 3 members on YouTube, but we'll see about that. Anyway, what are we gonna do this week? Well, look, I know that we promised that we were gonna do the top 10 Pop-Tart flavors. That is going to come, but unfortunately something timely has occurred. And so we gotta do something else. So what we're gonna do is, we don't have royalty here in the US, but if we were to, who would we make into the royal family? So Francesca and I are gonna do our top 10 American royalty suggestions, which will be coming up after the show. Will be upgraded a little bit later on, or will be uploaded a little bit later on. And for now though, thank you for being here. Please hit the like button, share the stream if you haven't already. And as we go along, if you wanna send us tweets, super chats, comments, all of that, we'll respond. But until then, why don't we launch into the news, Francesca?
Yeah.
Let's do it. The COVID aid bill has now passed the Senate, and they tried to stop it as much as they could, the Republicans, and in the end, none of them supported it. Like there was no. Is it bipartisan? Well, no, because none of the Republicans supported it. But like lots of Republican voters like it. But that would only matter in a democracy, I guess, Francesca. So like, it passed, that's something. Anyway, it still has to go back to the House and God only knows what's gonna happen there. But we wanted to let you know what's actually in it because we have been, I think, rightly quite critical of the bill and all that's been done to it over the past few weeks. The various stages from the checks not being 2,000 to the targeting debacles, and then they're taking down the unemployment amount. And there's lots that, and then no minimum wage increase. There was a lot that was done that was really bad, but that said, there is still some good stuff. So why don't we launch into that, give you a little bit of information about when you might expect some of the aid to come to you, that sort of thing. So it is $1.9 trillion and only Democrats supported it, as we said. Spends most of the money on low income and middle class Americans and state and local governments with very little funding going towards companies, and we'll actually break down the exact amounts. The plan is one of the largest federal responses to a downturn Congress has enacted, and economists estimate it will boost growth this year to the highest level in decades and reduce the number of Americans living in poverty by a third. That is according to Columbia University Center on Poverty and Social Policy. So let's take a look at what it actually does. The breakdown breakdown of the money, look, there are some things like, small business support, stuff like that, but a lot of it is going to individuals. That's in that light blue, things on like unemployment, stimulus payments, things like that. Then you have money that goes to state and local governments, which is a good chunk there, other healthcare spending. So it's actually, in terms of what was prioritized, it's pretty preferable to some of the earlier bills. We can actually see the direct comparison right here. You can see that businesses got in prior aid bills 37 or 31% of the money. In this case, they're getting about 4%, more of it going to individuals and also to state and local government. So all of that looks pretty good. We're gonna have some more information on how this might impact a couple of different types of individual people out there that might get some aid from this. But overall, Francesca, what do you think about what we got after all of this back and forth?
Right, after reading 628 pages, as if that was gonna stop it. Haha, we've got to make them read. No, it's huge. It's a huge amount of money. $1.9 trillion. I hope that is enough to get us through this moment. I know there's money for a vaccine, money for small businesses. I hope that this is it, but there are some pretty transformative pieces in this specifically, in terms of like child tax credits and increasing and extending those for an entire year. I think it's like $300 if you have a kid under 5, $250 if you have a child between 6 and 17, I think. So not bad. And honestly, after all this time, I wish it had more, but I truly hope that Democrats can get the upper hand on the narrative here and continue to hound the fact that no Republican voted for this incredibly important, not stimulus bill, rescue bill. And that's gonna be the reason that families of 4 are gonna have $5,600 in their pockets. So my biggest concern is that Democrats actually utilize this momentum and make sure that voters know who delivered such a huge plan to them.
Yeah, I'm glad that you focused on that because it just can't be said enough. None of them supported it. Not even like the moderates. No. And they're apparently, they can do that because they look out there at the country and they say, my voters won't care. My voters have been convinced that the crisis doesn't actually exist, or if it's a crisis, the only crisis is that there are lockdowns and masks. And despite everything economically that's happened, still, like, by the way, the jobs numbers that were just released last week were really good, like over 1/3 of a million new jobs. And that still leaves like 9 million jobs less than we had a year ago. So still really bad economic situation. And yet, for the party that supposedly represents those with economic anxiety that have been left behind by government, ignored by government, they can just ignore them again and not do anything to try to stop it by reading the stuff out loud and then not actually being there. Marsha Blackburn, she said over the weekend in an interview, like, we made sure that the American people knew what's in it, and I can vote no because I know what's in it because we had it read out loud, even though she left in the first half hour.
No.
But they're again rightly reading that their voters don't care about any of this. They like, sure, maybe they'd like insurance and a job, but they really got to focus right now on Dr. Seuss.
Yeah.
And so maybe they'll get to it at some point.
And it's more than that, John. It's that, and this is the reason that Democrats can't play as dirty and disgusting and ego-driven, even though many of them try, and I know we're going to talk about them. But is that Republicans have no problem withholding desperately needed aid to states and families and struggling unemployed folks right now. They have no trouble holding that back in order to win re-election or to score points against Democrats. For them, that people dying in squalor is worth it for them if they can say they stopped Democrats from bettering the American economy and helping people out. Doesn't matter. They just want to obstruct so that they can crash and burn the country even more so that they will then have a perfect platform to run against whomever, any Democrat in the next year. Like, that's the point. Yeah. And what's good about this package is that it kind of addresses the fact that we've been left with a horrible mess out of the Trump administration, of course, because of COVID, but on a number of things. We've got more and more money being funneled to the wealthiest folks in this country, less and less funds being given to the social safety net so desperately needed. And rather than going sort of halfway about this, it is good that it's $1 trillion number. It's almost $2 trillion. So it says that, Democrats are serious about turning this country around. They can get even more serious, and they still need to be pushed. We cannot sit on our laurels at all. But yeah, I think it is a good sign that this is the kind of funds we need to really push back against the right wing's agenda.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be. Featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity, the UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, "You must unlearn what you have learned." And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
Assuming that the Senate version of the aid bill is actually the one that becomes law, and it probably will, I guess. What does that mean for you out there? And we're gonna make a few assumptions about who you is, but assuming that it does get passed again in the House, this new version, and they're able to reconcile the differences and all of that, it should be signed within a week. Electronic fund transfers should happen by March 22nd or so. Physical checks, if that's how you get your stimulus, assuming you'll get it, should go out by March 29th. So the money is coming. And look, it only took like months after the runoff elections. But anyway, all of this aid, what effect will it have on people? So the Washington Post put together a couple of interesting little comparisons of the different aid packages and how they've affected different sorts of people. So as one example, they have a family of 4 in Massachusetts in which one parent lost a job. So they have overall, all of the different aid packages together would give that family of 4 about $66,000. And you can see that a lot of that comes in the one that has just passed, including the child tax credit, a lot of money that's coming from unemployment insurance, which will be extended, although not at the levels that they had been talking about for literally months, and then the direct stimulus payments as well to the various parts of the family. Now, if you're not a family of 4, for instance, a single job loser in Tennessee would get around $44,000. And for them, in this most recent round, a lot of it is coming from, again, the extension of unemployment insurance, a little bit from the stimulus payments. But when we talked earlier about that this would lower poverty by 30%, according to some think tanks or whatever, I mean, in practice, that's what it looks like. That's a person who, in theory, could have lost their job, been kicked out of their apartment, and that's basically it. They've been left behind. Now, there's a lot of potential flaws to these comparisons. So for instance, what was their income like a year earlier when the stimulus evaluation is gonna be based off of? Yes. Have they already tapped out their unemployment going into this? Like, there's a lot of considerations like that, but these two comparisons, to whatever extent they're applicable to people watching this, it does show that things are bad, but they'd be a lot worse without these bills.
Yeah, and I believe that it lifts some of the restrictions on extended unemployments that were in the original CARES Act. So under Trump, there was like, if you have employ 50 or more people, something like this, basically allowing giant corporations to skirt some of these regulations. And left a lot of people in the middles there, sort of folks who maybe didn't qualify for like a leave package or whatever, if they got laid off, severance. That's what it is. It's been so long since I had a full-time job. Leave package. If they didn't qualify for severance and they were unemployed. So this really does step up, and unemployment applies to so many more people. So even if you think that you're not qualified for unemployment, double check, because I believe that this bill really does expand that, and you might very well qualify.
Exactly. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of questions still that haven't been answered. Feel free to send them in. We will try to get people additional information as we go on through the week. Is Joe Manchin potentially willing to reform the filibuster, or is he just holding out a football and we're gonna try to kick it and he's gonna pull it away? Let's find out together. Here he is on the news over the weekend.
I'd make it harder to get rid of the filibuster. I'm supporting the filibuster. I'm going to continue to support the filibuster. I think it defines who we are as a Senate. I'll make it harder to get rid of it, but it should be painful if you want to use it. You should make sure the place works to where, okay, I want to work with you. How can we do this? How do we move forward? My Republican friends are my friends. They're not my enemies. And my Democrats is my colleagues. They're not my enemy either. That's my caucus. Together, we've got to make this place work, and it should be harder to invoke pain. It should be painful for us. Don't make it painful for the other side.
So far, it's been mainly painful for progressives. It's been painful for Francesca and I. But anyway, he wants to make it painful for them. So look, now he did say, Francesca, I want the filibuster. I want to make it even harder to get rid of. I love the filibuster. The filibuster is the best. No filibuster, come back. But he also said, I'm willing to make it painful. In other interviews, he says, make him stand there and talk. I'm willing to look at any way we can, but I'm not willing to take away the involvement of the minority, which is ironic because, of course, historically, the filibuster has been used to make sure that minority voting rights and things like that never pass. But anyway,
more painful? What could be more painful than Ted Cruz in a diaper reading Green Eggs and Ham on the Senate floor, soiling himself? You can't make the filibuster any more painful. Have I mentioned that it's racist? Like, it's so stupid to be like, well, we need to make consequences, like no lunch for you, but we will keep the filibuster. Like, oh, that's all he means. All he means is like there'll be a tax, but the tax will be something even more disgusting and awful than Cruz in diapers. And I don't know. I don't even know what that would be.
So way back in 2011, a very different time, Manchin backed a similar unsuccessful measure that would have required that senators who wish to filibuster a bill must actually take the floor and make remarks. Look, if they did something like that, at the very least, the filibuster would be kind of like Manchin and Sinema and others pretend it is. Like they pretend that it's this great long-standing tradition where you have to actually speak up for what you believe in. And in theory, it draws the eyes of the nation to the filibuster, potentially making it an unpopular thing to do. But you don't have to do any of that. You don't ever have to speak at all. You just don't allow the vote to take place if you have 40 people. So would this help at all if they were to require the diaper and the green eggs and ham and all of that?
No, because the other side, and this is the problem that, Manchin understands who he's dealing with. He knows the Republican Party is completely bad faith and will utilize anything to their political advantage, because so will he. That's the whole point. I'd like to ask him about January 6th. Do you think that these guys are your friends, the ones who basically were totally fine with a mob storming the Capitol? I'm still not over that. Do you guys remember when the president was impeached? Yeah, that just happened like a month ago. So it's not gonna actually change anything to put higher bars on the filibuster, because Republicans have always been willing to touch that third rail so long as they get more airtime, so long as that they thwart any kind of progress and any kind of Democratic bill. And once again, Democrats are hard pressed to play that exact same game because generally they don't like to stop like doing something or anything. Now, should they have tried on stopping the 1.9 tax break to like the wealthiest Americans? Yeah, I don't think they could have though. They weren't in the majority. Or I mean, could they have? That was like a tax. That was a budget reconciliation thing.
That was budget reconciliation. Yeah,
Democrats Democrats aren't willing to fight in the same ways that Republicans are willing to fight, in those same dirty, disgusting ways. So I'd like to think that if we preserve the filibuster, Democrats would even utilize it, but I don't think they would. And all it's doing is preventing us from actually getting anything done.
Yeah, look, I want to believe that maybe he's indicating that it's possible. Like, I got a little bit excited earlier from a tweet from Emma Vigeland, who was talking about how this seems to be an indication, especially because he's doing it on Fox News. Like, he's gone and talked about how awesome the filibuster is on Fox News for years and years. Now he's going and saying maybe we should make it painful, make it mean something. Maybe that represents something. So she was pointing out that he has some wiggle room. And so I said that we should make hashtag make Manchin wiggle trend. So if everybody watching this did that, it would happen. Think about it. Don't you want to live in that America where hashtag make Manchin wiggle is trending? They say a lot of stupid stuff when they talk about the filibuster. So for instance, he's the next big bill that in theory will be worked on is HR 1. So it's a bunch of voting rights. It's other stuff too, corruption, everything, but it's trying to make it so the people can actually vote. So he didn't rule out using budget reconciliation to pass a voting rights bill with a simple majority, which would be necessary because as long as the filibuster's here, it's never gonna pass. So that sounds good, except Francesca, I don't see how you could pass it via reconciliation since it has no effect on the budget. So it seems like a way of saying, oh no, I still want things to happen, but he's talking about fantasy land.
Yeah.
But then in theory, you would then need to break the filibuster to make it pass, and he's talking about it as if it's a must pass. So is that wiggle room? Are we gonna make Manchin wiggle off of HR 1?
No. Have we mentioned politicians are slimy? Is that, are
you implying that he'd lie? But then, so the new senator from California is like, well, look, if it turns out that the Republicans won't work with us on passing anything, then that would prove to people like Manchin that the filibuster needs to go. But then I would be like, why are we waiting? Because that's not a hypothetical. It's not like, oh, I can't wait to find out if they block everything. No, they're definitely gonna block everything, every single thing. They would have blocked the aid bill if they could have. So I just feel like, is it as simple as Manchin doesn't want anything to happen? Is it at the end of the day, is it as simple as that?
Yeah, Emma on the Bituation Room podcast, my podcast, was basically sort of giving me like TMI about Joe Manchin's brain, but which is it's an important breakdown to understand how it works. Not much there, a lot going on, and it's very. It is super opportunistic. It is all about being the contrarian. It is all about being the maverick. It's all about sticking it to both parties, and kind of being a pain in the ass, honestly. So like, I think that I don't think obviously HR 1 voting rights, Republicans are not gonna turn on that. And I don't even think that Joe Manchin, I mean, he's not being honest about that, right? This is arguably somehow in our country a more controversial topic than COVID relief is voting rights. And the parliamentarian is still there. So to think that the parliamentarian is going to say HR 1 can pass through budget reconciliation, that is once again a far cry. It's a stretch. It's not gonna happen, I don't think. I want it to, sure, why not? I don't know, why not? I'm not saying the parliament, I support overruling the parliamentarian, but I don't imagine that she will say it's okay to put HR 1 through budget reconciliation. Oh, this is so wonky.
Let's
talk about the Royals.
We're going too soon, don't worry. But really fast, and again, I said a lot of stupid stuff gets said when you're talking about the filibuster, so here's a bit more. So my thing is, why wait? They're gonna block everything, but are they? According to Joe Manchin, no. They would get on to some things. Now, you have to provide an example of that. Here's the example of legislation he thinks the Republicans would sign on to And why they would, I don't know which of those two things is stupider or crazier. So the bill he thinks they would support is the infrastructure package. I don't know why he thinks that's what they would sign on to, but the reason he thinks they'll sign on to it is because they'll like that the $4 trillion infrastructure bill, he'll make sure that it's paid for with tax increases, and they'll be so impressed by that 10 will sign on. The thing that's gonna make them sign on is tax increases. What? And he's a senator. He's the dumbest person in America. Oh God, I feel like I'm going crazy. But anyway, all of that's real. I think that that's a real screenshot from Axios.
I mean, once we get the Black Lives Matter movement to sign on to it, Republicans will have no choice. We're just gonna get the Antifa vote and Black Lives Matter, and we'll come together and sprinkle some trans rights on there, and Republicans will have no choice but to sign it. Homie, you know exactly who you're dealing with. You're just bluster. He loves, imagine loving your time in the sun, because this is the thing. He can go back to voters and it doesn't matter whether he's actually produced anything for West Virginia. He can just say, hey, remember when my name was in the news? That's it. That's it.
Yeah, kind of.
And by the same token, anyone who wants to primary him or Democrats overall can also say, hey, when Joe Manchin's name is in the news, yeah, he's a thorn in our side. He's the worst. And now we all know his name.
Debbie Stabenow says they should get rid of the filibuster now.
Who dat?
And so did Klobuchar.
Oh. Yeah, is that another senator? I know Kloby.
Yes. So some are moving, but again, it sucks because it's like we can't, like a senator saying they support getting rid of it doesn't matter unless every single one of them does. And so I guess we need to win some more special elections. I don't know, 5 Republican senators aren't running for re-election. This might end up being a map that's okay for the Democrats. Unfortunately, it's looking like it's gonna take place at a time when the Democrats won't have done anything for 2 years. And I know I'm exaggerating, they just passed the aid bill. It's very good, blah, 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 all the stuff that we just said. We've given credit, but
no, but look, the bottom line with this bill is also that not only are Americans gonna get $1,400, which is not the $2,000 that they were promised, but that $1,400 extends to their dependents. So before under Trump, there were $600 for your dependents. Okay, now there's more than twice that amount for your dependents. So if you're a family of 4, you get $5,600. That's so yes, there's broader things. There's things that we're gonna see in the healthcare industry. There's things that saving live venues. Hey, it's important for a comic. But this is straight up cash money in your hands, and we know Americans like that. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I kind of wish that Joe Biden would individually sign them one by one. Just he's gonna sign it with his finger. Exactly. But I do think that will go a long way. I don't think that will be lost on voters.
Well, and imagine how strong of a 1-2 punch it would be if he also signed his executive order to cancel student loan debt. Even the paltry amount that he's willing to do would be something, and yet he's not doing it, even though he can totally do it on his own. So why is he not doing it?
Do you realize?
Seems sort of weird.
Do you realize what an icon? What a soar higher than Bernie Sanders millennial Gen Z icon he would immediately become if he absolved $50,000 worth of student debt. Everyone would immediately shut up, sail to a second term if he himself makes it physically. If Joe Biden drops student debt, end of story. There's a movement that would support him no matter what. Whether you like him, whether you hate him, or you like some of his policies, this is one thing that will emblazon him in the minds of every young voter. And if he was smart, which I don't think he is, in this case, he would absolve that debt.
Yeah. Mitch McConnell is now the Senate minority leader, but might, after all, not be that long for the Senate, at least according to some of the backroom deals he's working on. He's apparently compiled a short list of successors in his home state of Kentucky, preparing for the possibility that he doesn't serve out his full term. Now that is fine, I guess. Any senator, especially one who's been there for 300 or 400 years, is gonna have people that they would prefer were to take over after they leave. There's a few problems though. The first is, who he's considering. So the list is topped by his protege, State Attorney General Daniel Cameron, and also includes former United Nations Ambassador Kelly Craft, whose billionaire coal magnate husband is a major McConnell donor, as well as Kentucky Secretary of State Michael Adams, a former McConnell scholar. I don't even know what that means. But anyway, anyone who he'd have as his protege is not anyone I want in the Senate. And bringing in someone like who's married to a donor of yours, which seems crazy. But that's not the problem, Francesca. It's not who he wants, it's how he wants. Because under Kentucky law, it is, as it is in many states, the governor's choice of who the successor will be until an election can be had. And that is, in this case, Democratic Governor Andy Beshear. But that's inconvenient to the Republicans. So as they've done all over the country, they just changed the rules to take away the power of Democrats. So in the past, they've just made it so that governors, when it switches over to a Democrat, just don't have any power anymore. They just vote it all away. Now what they're gonna do is they're gonna have this new legislation, and it's gonna alter the current state statute that allows the governor to appoint a replacement. If the bill becomes law, the appointment to fill a vacancy will be selected from a list of 3 names submitted by the state executive committee of the same political party as the senator who held the vacant seat. According to the bill, the appointee from that list will then serve until a successor has been elected by voters. So if the voters choose a Democratic governor, knowing that that's one of the powers that the Democratic governor would have, well, then the voters are inconvenient. So we're gonna hold off by having our party choose. And right now the bill is like, it's from the same political party, but you know that if it ever ends up being a Democrat that's replaced, they'll change the legislation again. It's whatever they want it to be to let them maintain control for as many years as possible.
I mean, yes, state senates have done this all of the time, especially in Republican-controlled red states. Once again, these Republican state legislators do not care about their voters. They override them all the time. Every time there's a ballot measure that passes successfully, that's usually something like, "Hey, give us Medicaid," or like, "Hey, legal marijuana," whatever it is. They always override it. They always do that, and proving they don't care about their voters. And and we just talked about the filibuster. I'm not convinced that a filibuster wouldn't be good on a state Senate level. I'm not sure if that's even around, but like, how do you prevent the majority from consistently running roughshod over the minority in places that, do tilt a little bit more Republican? But again, this is the thing, the state legislatures are where so much policy gets enacted. And these are the ones who are like blocking it at the local level on anything from healthcare to now this, to just who gets to represent you. So you're absolutely right. They're gonna change it back and bend it to their will. And can we just appreciate how awful Daniel Cameron is, right? This is the Attorney General of Kentucky who refused to prosecute the officers who killed Breonna Taylor for the murder, for the actual murder. 3 of the grand jurors who were on that case have a petition to recall Daniel Cameron. That's how bad it was. Your grand jurors. It's amazing. I mean, these are the people sticking their necks out. That is how corrupt. That is how, embedded in a racist system. Daniel Cameron, who himself is black, how embedded in the racist system he is, and how he's been doing the bidding of white supremacists in that country. I mean, in that state. I'm sorry. So the man is trash, and it would be an awful replacement for McConnell. I mean, God, it's amazing to say that someone could be as awful. I don't know if he would be as awful. Because McConnell, dang. But
it would be tough.
It'd be tough call.
Yeah, and just look, I would say what we need to pass legislation federally, since you're not gonna have it happen in enough states, to make sure that as many people as wanna vote can, and as easily as possible, get rid of the gerrymandering so that the vote in an area actually produces political leadership that's reflective of that area. get money out of politics so that ideally things aren't flooded by so much corporate money that the advertisement that happens during elections bears no actual relationship to what the candidates are actually like or the situation the country's actually like, and hopefully develop a society where people actually care about what's going on, understand and process what politicians do. Like, we need all of this to actually produce leadership that is sane and representative, and we have so many obstacles to that. And this is just one of the latest ones. They plug the holes in the ship as they lose power by stripping governors of power and all of that. Like you said, overruling ballot measures. Yeah, and this would be another example of it. And they'll do it because why shouldn't McConnell's exit from the Senate be as undemocratic and wholly focused on the raw exercise of political power than every minute of his time in it has been?
Yes, very on brand.
Yesterday, Oprah had her interview with Harry and Meghan. And I can't believe that I'm even saying those names because I don't care about any of this. And yet, what I'm discovering about myself is that I am fascinated by things people are fascinated by. I'm interested in their fascination. So, Francesca, I've got some thoughts on what was revealed in the interview, but especially the reaction to it. But I want to give you first crack. What did you think? Because I know you're very into this.
No, okay, so let me just clarify. I am not into the royals as some sort of, hero worship, weird princess fantasy BS. I don't care about the babies. I don't care about the weddings. I don't care about all the I don't care about tea or crumpets, but I care about spilling this tea. Because man, oh man, like it revealed so much of what we sort of already suspected about the royal family, about how conniving and backstabbing and all the inner workings. And like, if you didn't watch it, the bombshells are not bombshells like, whatever, like I wanted red flowers and she said white flowers. It was basically this family has gone out of their way to protect themselves. And when I needed protection from either the media or physical protection from like guards, a security guard, the family said no. That your son, you don't have protection, your son won't have protection, your son won't be a prince, even though that breaks with all of this, the trajectory. And Meghan basically documents her like slow, like psychological breakdown as the family made it clear that she was unwanted, she was not protected. They were not going to stick their necks out for her. They were going to basically not lie, but not tell the truth about her. Mm-hmm. That's overall. Secondly, that drove her to have suicidal thoughts, which she spoke about very, very candidly, that she really didn't want to live anymore. And that she and Harry didn't leave because they were like, we don't like the royalty anymore. It's because the royalty was like, yeah, you're like not one of us. It might be because you're, black, but like probably no, neither confirmed nor denied. They basically were like, they didn't want to protect them as part of the royal family. And so they were like, look, we're out of it then. So all that, there's some racist stuff about concerns about how dark her son's skin would be. There is so it's bad. It is bad. This is not just palace intrigue. This is a corrupt institution that is on top of that a family that has not been acting like family up when it comes to like the first mixed race member of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I watched most of it. I didn't expect that I would. And it was interesting. There's obviously drama. I don't like, they seem like perfectly nice people. I didn't care about their marriage. I don't generally get too worked up about what's happening to really, really rich people. Like, so the royal family, I don't care. Like, it's all it is it's some rich people. That's all it is. I think it's so weird. And I know it's not original at all to think that royalty is stupid. I get that. It's about as original as being obsessed with it. Totally understand that. I had a weird thought yesterday though. I was at the supermarket and there was a very, very old woman who was shopping. Like I felt bad because it looked like it might be her last time at that supermarket. But anyway, she was super old. And I just thought like, what if I found out that she was rich and I became obsessed with her? And everyone did. Whatever that old woman does, I'm really into it. That's the weirdest thing, but I guess we can choose a different old woman and that's fine. But anyway, that said, the thing for me though is all that I got out of the interview is that I buy the story. Yeah, Britain is super racist because the world is super racist. They probably treated her terribly. She wanted help, they didn't provide, so she came. That seems like the whole thing. I feel like Oprah could have banged that out in like 5 minutes. But it's the reaction to, and I feel bad for her because she seems nice. It's the reaction to it. The people who support the royals have lost it over this. Like,
so
now,
funny.
I want to read this tweet from Piers Morgan. Now, Piers Morgan is terrible. That's not new, but he tweeted 1,000 times about this interview. He said, "This interview is an absolutely disgraceful betrayal of the Queen and the royal family," in caps. "I expect all this vile, destructive, self-serving nonsense from Meghan Markle, but for Harry to let her take down his family and the monarchy like this is shameful." How old are you?
Yes.
You don't know them. I don't know, maybe he does. Maybe he goes to parties. Why do you care? If, first of all, he does the thing that right wingers do a lot where like he's not even really implying that she's lying, kind of. It's just, how dare you do it anyway? How could you betray the Queen? I just don't get it. I don't get that impulse at all to give a damn about that. They're rich, they're gonna be fine. They're gonna live in their castle and they'll be okay if the truth is revealed. And yeah, so as Eddie O'Donnell mentioned in Twitch, Marina Sirtis agreed with Piers, and that made me so mad. I don't get the obsession with and blind uncritical support for this family that I wouldn't get why you'd support it before we found out all of this about what they're actually like, Francesca. Yeah. I just don't get it.
Look. For people who have not followed, this is not the first time that the royal family has been trashed. This is not the first time that they've covered up clear corruption. This is not, that they've been crappy to their inner family, okay? Watch The Crown, all right? I wish that were all fiction. It's not. The royal family should have been abolished the day that Princess Diana was killed. I'm sorry. Like, seriously though. Talk about not protecting someone. Talk about someone who is driven, essentially, literally driven to her death. I'm not saying they killed her. I'm not saying they had her killed. I'm just saying that the amount that they didn't protect Princess Diana, Prince Harry's mom, the amount that they did not protect her when she was vulnerable, and allowed paparazzi to chase her through the streets. That is essentially what Meghan Markle is saying, but times 20 because we're in a social media era. And in addition, look, the racism is so all over the place. It is funny. It is funny that people defend the crown the way they defend the crown. It is as if the country would never exist, that it would, we would lose it. Suddenly Britain would not. No, you'll be fine. This Commonwealth, sadly, will still be there, even though you don't necessarily deserve all of it. Even though, we should talk about your conquests and have a little interrogation about that. It's still there. You're still colonizers. Yay, you won the seas. I don't know, like, I'm sorry for all the, British and English, viewers who think I'm not being disrespectful, but like your country doesn't cease to exist just because the crown is no longer and the royalty is no longer a thing. But Piers Morgan, it's the perfect amount of elitism and BS fawning over a family that does not deserve it, that has gone above and beyond to basically protect their inner circle and be crappy to everyone else. That being said, Oprah clarified this morning, as per like Prince Harry's wishes, and also Meghan Markle said multiple times that the Queen herself nor Prince Philip were in any way the ones who were concerned about like how dark their skin, their baby's skin color would be. Like they themselves were fine, they were lovely, blah blah blah. And Meghan Markle herself was like, the Queen's never been mean to me. The Queen's been chill. It's the firm.
Yeah, which presumably she leads, so that's why like it's nice that you're saying that about her, but
presumably she leads.
But anyway,
but she, look, we can talk a lot about this. I know you don't care. I know you don't care. We can't
because we've only got that's the thing. I'm not mad because I don't care. I'm mad because I guess I do care in that I don't want anyone else to care. Like this to me is the Kardashians. 30% bigger. That's all it is. It feels similar to me. It's obsession with a family that like is fine without you. I know it's not the exact same thing, but I just don't get like.
No, because
it's suffering. Like there's problems in the world, and we're like obsessed with these rich people.
I was about to call you my boyfriend's name because I'm arguing with you so heavily. No, it is not the same thing. I'm sorry, because there is not a level of prestige and like statehood around the Kardashians. If there were an entire apparatus of statehood and prestige around the Kardashians, I'm talking real statehood. Like if there was a Senate committee, or like if the Kardashians were to work with Congress every single, a few years to form a government. Can you imagine?
I mean, Kim worked with Trump, and like Kanye was in there. Like the metaphors are.
What I'm saying is, it could get worse. Like I know we're gonna talk about who we would choose as royals. Spoiler, nobody. But I love the game, but it could be worse. It's so much grosser. The monarchy is so much grosser than the Kardashians. It's so much more, and it's so much more fawned over in such a BS and disingenuous way. That's why this matters.
Yeah, I find it so fascinating that the Brits care at all. I find it fascinating. I don't get it.
Though a lot of them don't.
No, I know a lot. I know a lot don't. But like Piers Morgan is like, holy fuck, how dare you turn on the Queen Mother? I just don't like, and it's just.
Do you think he's putting on a hat? Do you think he's putting on like a cute hat and looking in the mirror right now and being like, I love you, Queen?
Yep, and I think he's holding a stuffed corgi, and that's the best thing about the Queen is the corgi stuff. Anyway, yeah, and like with Piers Morgan, it's so obviously the racism. Like he can't and doesn't care to hide it at all that he opposes her. Anyway, yeah. We all know that the right hates masks, but now they figured out a way to indoctrinate their kids to hate them too. They had some sort of like special event for mask hating. Two Idaho state lawmakers provided some film of this. We want to show you a bit though. Take a look at this, how disgusting this is.
McCoy! You're fired. Here's another mask.
Francesca, I guess it's the same as everything that we've seen for a year, but like, I don't know, that feels particularly reprehensible for some reason.
Yeah, especially because you kind of need a mask to prevent from all the smoke inhalation of the burning of the mask. It's a very ironic little conundrum. But the video goes on, and there's a lot of like, yeah, we don't live in this world anymore. We don't want you anymore. Like, oh, sweetie, none of us want this. But you're probably going to kill your grandparent if you don't wear one. So maybe put it on, because grandpa gives you $100 every Christmas. So you want that, don't you? Like, it is very, I was saying the other day on the podcast that it's like, that reminds me of like Salem witch trial-esque like hysteria. Like we are at the point, yes, this like indoctrinating people to be so hysterical. And it comes from this like literally like anti-enlightenment, anti-science movement that we're being like lured back into in a lot of places on Facebook.
Yeah, it does feel like that. And to have the kids, and every one of those conservative parents hates the idea of the damn libs indoctrinating their kids in school by having them read facts. And yet teaching those kids to like anthropomorphize the fire, I think. Because they were like saying, here, fire, here's a mask for you. They're like, on the level that a kid can worship something, we just saw the development of some sort of fire-centric religion for those kids, where they feed it personal protective equipment, surrounded by the most irresponsible adults who are probably breathing a variety of germs onto each other. And like, it's just propaganda. It is, again, the answer to every political development in America over the past year has been, what would happen if the coronavirus was in charge? This is what would happen. You would have people taking the personal protective equipment they have and feeding it to a fire. They bought masks to burn.
Yeah.
And I know that like the book burning comparisons become a little bit too easy, I guess. But I feel like that's what they were going for. Like they must have thought of that before they did that it's like that, getting the kids together and having the kids throw it in there. And I don't know if that's the thing that the right does where they do something really awful to get you say that it's like something awful. And then they say, ha ha, we tricked you, even though you did it. I don't know if it's that or if they like the comparison, but they set that up. They brought the barrel, they brought the masks. What a sad
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, this is a minority, but they're just so fascinating to watch. So I'm like, oh my God, what's in your brain? But I do think we have to remember it is the minority of people that are doing this, that most people do believe in masks, do believe in science. But again, like the leadership matters. And I'm so glad we have better leadership. Also, all those kids are gonna get $1,400. You little squirt, you son of a. You're gonna get $1,400. You didn't do anything. You burnt a mask and you got $1,400, and you're gonna get a child tax credit. See?
Yeah. I think that's the woman from Stranger Things season 2. Anyway, it looked like her. Anyway, yeah, no, every one of those people that feels like the Democrats are, best case scenario, they believe the Democrats are Nazis. Worst case scenario, they're Nazis who eat babies. They're gonna get aid. They're gonna get help from those people that they hate. Like, I wonder, and will it get through to any of them? I don't know. If they're burning masks, I think they're gonna be okay. I don't think they're gonna.
These are the people that are obsessed with utilizing kids as props. Oh no, children, save the children, save the children. No, use them as props. Like, come on. Also, remember when, at the Women's March, there was a lot of children out who had like F Donald Trump signs, and there was so much outrage. Even like, I don't know, I feel like even liberals are like, you really shouldn't say F Donald Trump. It's like, shh, calm down, all right? They're children in cages right now, buddy. Like, think this language is warranted, although not on this show. But it's important to remember like what we're actually talking about. Like the right is so triggered by the left at all utilizing kids or at all, like saying a bad word, and now they're burning masks.
Exactly. Here's a little bit of advice for wives from Pastor Stuart Allen Clark. Here is what he thinks you should focus on to make sure that you have a good domestic situation.
Why is it so many times that women, after they get married, let themselves go? Why is it? Why do they do that? Here's how way too many women are. I got him now. The chase is over. Hey, that's where you're wrong. The chase ain't never over. The chase ain't never over. And by God, if he don't love me the way I look now, he ought to look at his own spare tire in the mirror. Now look, I'm not saying every woman can be the epic trophy wife of all time, like Melania Trump. I'm not saying that at all. Now, most women can't be trophy wives, but you know, like her, maybe a participation trophy. I don't know, but all I can say is not everybody looks like that. Amen. Not everybody looks like that. But you don't need to look like a butch either. Hey, here's something you need to know. You need to know this. Men have a need for their women to look like women.
How to know when like your sermon has become just your issues with your marriage?
Yeah. And sometimes men don't know where they put the cold cuts. Okay, Sharon. First of all, happy International Women's Day, and thank you, the Damage Report, for that. I love him. He's clearly has no mirrors in his home. We can all be trophy wife. Look, I gotta say, we've all read Luke chapter 7. Keep it tight. You know?
Keep it tight, keep it right. That's one of
tight.
my favorite Bible verses, actually.
God said unto thee, no fatties. Like that was definitely right. Like that's the loving Christ that we all have.
Wait,
no,
you don't remember when Jesus was like, I give unto you the fishes and the loaves, no loaves for you, Karen. Gotta come back in the car.
Yeah. Exactly. It's it just, this is the kind, literally though, like I think pastors run out of material. I've sat through my share of bad sermons. Usually it's more about football and like way too many analogies about like, I know you'd rather be watching the Bucks play the Rams or whatever it is, you know.
They try to be folksy.
Yeah, they try to be super folksy, but this just got too far. You don't want to look butch. I mean, these are the
specific criticism. You know what I love to imagine is the prequel to this. It's him backstage getting ready to come out. He's like, okay, I'm gonna tell these women how they need to keep it together and actually, they need to keep trying. The hunt is never over. Should I tuck in my shirt? Nah, I'm good. And the specific Melania thing, that's such a, I don't know, I know that this isn't actually what being a cuck is about, but it feels cuckish that he's like
cuckish.
Worshiping Melania as like what every woman should try. It just feels so cuckish. It's cuck adjacent, at least. It's the sermon on the cuck. But yeah. Ladies, it's the way God made us. It's the way we are. Men are going to look. He made us to look. You want them to be looking at you. Don't let yourself go. It was in public.
It's in public. I think the grossest part about that is there is so much internalized misogyny in terms of women. Like the times I've spoken with Republican women about why you vote for Trump, and this goes for Republican women overall. When you scratch the surface of their personal responsibility, freedom of choice, don't depend on big government for birth control. When you scratch the surface, there is a internalized, like misogynist, self-hating, like pastor just being like, keep it tight. Like it's who believes that women just need a strong man. This is what I've always said. Women who are like, oh, you don't need the government. And then you look at their history and they're like, their dad is rich. Their husband is rich. They have inherited all their money. They like these are the folks who are like, you don't need a government. All you need is a big, strong man. People would tell me that to my face. Oh, Donald Trump, he's a big, strong man. And that's all you need. Don't need big government. Gross. Yeah. The government is actually an attempt at democracy. But all I need is a big, strong man. And it still exists. It is why a lot of white women still voted for Trump. It's a lot of why a lot of women. Yeah, and it's why a lot of women still continue to vote with their husbands, even if they disagree with them. Yeah. Right? A lot of women sadly look to their spouses. If they're straight, they're male spouses and are like, well, I'm just gonna whatever he says, I believe.
Yeah. And if he can survive this, I think it'll be because of that trend. We'll see. I mean, this got a lot of press attention. We'll find out. I don't get the thing about religion is that I don't. The thing about religion is that I get it about as much as music, is that you have an instruction guide for everything that was written by the creator of the universe. And most of them, including their leaders, don't give a damn about any of it. He knows that thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife is one of the big ones. And he's like, that Melania Trump, I'd like to plow, buddy, let me tell you. All he was doing was coveting it up. It was just a big coveting. There's only 10. I probably remember all of them and I'm an atheist.
Does he think it's the second coveting and not the second coming? What if the angel that comes back, what if? I've got a lot of questions. What if Jesus comes back and doesn't have washboard abs?
I don't know. Is he going to be into it? I don't know. These are all good questions, but we will have to return to them next week because we're unfortunately out of time. Francesca, as always, thank you for joining me. Look forward to doing our top 10 suggestions for who should be the U.S. royal family.
Can I just say really quickly that the ultimate, that like Mary was the ultimate, like the actual birth of the Savior was the ultimate cucking. Like Joseph was the first cuck.
It was, yeah.
The Holy Ghost impregnated her, or whatever impregnated her, and there you go. Your whole religion is about that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, then he is carrying on a very noble, long-standing tradition of cuckdom. Welcome everyone to the weekly top 10 list here, exclusively for tier 2 and tier 3 members. Francesca Fiorentini joins me once again. Francesca, how's it going?
Hi.
Glad to have you here, Francesca, especially for this one, because the royals are in the news, and so we're gonna make some news. We don't have a royal family here in the US, and as I'm sure we'll say many times, thank God. But if we were to, if we had to have a royal family, who would we choose to be it? And so we've got our top 10 list for that. Would you like to start things off with your number 5?
Yes, no, as someone who does not believe in the monarchy, believe in democracy, socialists, maybe more, socialist plus. Yes, okay, but like just purely out of exercise, families who've given a lot to this country and maybe deserve a recognition.
Okay.
The Wayans, all right? The Wayans brothers.
In like 5 minutes now.
Let's do it. They've provided so much laughter. They were pivotal in In Living Color, pivotal in the Scary Movie franchise. Then there was White Chicks. The Wayans are a gift. They're goofy. They're international. They'd be great ambassadors. Always lead with a joke. I say the Wayans brothers.
Great. I can't wait to see where this goes from here. But yeah, you need a good sized family. I like it. Those parties would be awesome.
Yes.
My number 5 is gonna be slightly different. I'm starting off with someone who could hold the role and not create too much drama. Like if you wanna have a royal family that won't embarrass the country, we'll just have parties that'll probably be very delightful. We'll shake hands and write letters to kids and everything, probably has dogs. I'm gonna suggest as our new king, and I guess his wife as well, Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is just such a Sophie called it, I think. He's just such a delight. He seems nice, and what is he gonna do? He's not gonna do anything to embarrass us. Some of my other picks are gonna embarrass us, but not King Hanks.
Yeah. Kanks for short.
Kanks. Thanks. Anyway, what's your number 4? No, that's the thing. No kinks. He's into missionary.
Oh, he's very missionary. Nah, dude, Hanks gets freaky, okay? He puts on that Forrest Gump voice.
No.
Yes.
Anyway, go on. Stop.
Okay. So the late great Cesar Chavez, farm workers organizing farm workers in California, and specifically in the grape fields. And he's such a legacy, and his family, Cesar Chavez's son, I believe, continues to do awesome work with the immigrant community all around the country, and a lot of faith-based work too. So the Chavez family, I think, would be an amazing ambassador and representative of this country. I would make them royalty easily.
That is a great pick. It briefly makes me feel a little bit bad that most of mine aren't serious, but then I remember that your last pick was the Waynes, so I feel a little bit better. But yeah, that's a great pick, a serious pick. My number 4, very serious, is I'm just choosing this person because of all of the people who spent a lot of time thinking about royalty and all of that. I would go for King George R.R. Martin. I mean, that dude has spent so much time, like he would not be Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks would just do the parties and stuff. This guy, would he end up killing another king somewhere else in the world? I don't know. He'd be setting up treacherous dinners and things like that. It would be dramatic. The later seasons might not be so great, but initially his kingdom, I think, would be pretty awesome. George R.R. Martin.
I love that. And I love that. I mean, I hope he has kids because, someone's got to rewrite the last book or actually finish it.
I don't know if he does actually.
Oh no, damn it.
We'll see.
Someone shack up with George R.R. Martin now.
He
all
has
right.
a wife. I will check. As you do your number 3, I'm gonna see if George R.R. Martin has kids.
Someone of a childbearing age. You know what I'm saying?
Doesn't.
What? Come on. Someone's got to rewrite because okay. Yes, I love that.
The book could still be good.
I love that.
Maybe. Okay, what was your number 3?
Okay, number 3, the Carters. I'm sorry. I love Beyonce. Jay-Z's I love Beyonce, and she is a good ambassador for this country. She's a good representative. Yes, the Carters.
I thought you were talking about Jimmy Carter. He's done a lot of good work. There are worse people than Jimmy Carter.
Anyone whose last name is Carter, so including Jimmy, including Beyonce, including anybody, just the Carters generally, you have a lot to live up to. And obviously Queen Bee, and she's great. I love her. I think she does good work. I think Lemonade was a revelation, as was her last album. What was her last album? Has she come up? Oh yeah, the Lion King album was so good. Yeah, love her.
That's a good pick. I really thought you were talking about Jimmy Carter. Anyway, my number 3 is someone equally fierce as Beyonce. If we're gonna go with the English Queen paradigm,
yes,
but like our version, Betty White. Let's get Queen Betty White in there. She'd be more fun. She'd probably have like Rottweilers or something. But anyway, she could like do the photos and the portraits and look like the queen, but she'd like tell dirty jokes occasionally, and we just have a lot of fun as a country. She'd be awesome. It probably tragically wouldn't last that long, but it'd be fun while it lasted. So Queen Betty White.
I agree. Here, love it.
Number 2.
Okay, number 2, the Kings, the MLK Jr.'s entire family. So that's currently Bernice King, his daughter, I believe, and the Coretta's no longer living, but the Kings.
Yeah.
They already have the name King.
That's true.
And
good on a resume.
Iconic civil rights family. Bernice is like amazing. She's continuing to do incredible work with like I think the MLK Foundation or organization or something. And MLK, man, define this country. Let's give the Kings their royalty that they deserve.
I wonder, has there, again, like with your number 4 is a very good choice. Has there ever been a king? I wonder. Anywhere in the world. We're gonna have to look into that.
We should.
My number 2 is our first crossover, Beyonce. I mean, if you want someone who's gonna be like powerful, I think it's pretty obvious. Like the pageantry, like
yes.
I like it would be
the
less
outfits.
like Queen Elizabeth and more like Queen Galadriel, like kind of like fierce and in your face and kind of scary, but like I don't know, maybe she'd accomplish really cool stuff. And I guess Jay-Z would be fine too, but it would be mostly it would be that sort of thing where it's the queen and like kind of the king, I guess, but mostly just the queen.
She's got 3 kids now. It's instead of the kingdom, it's the slaydom. Just reminding us all like, to wake up and be fierce and fabulous. She also woke up like that, and man, she's got a great morning face. The queen should.
That's true. Who is your number 1?
Okay, number 1 pick. Let's just do it. Meghan Markle and Harry, what's his last name? Windsor?
I don't know. I honestly don't know his last name.
Prince Harry. Make them new royalty. Let's relaunch. It's a spin-off of the original. It'll be better here. We'll be better to them. We actually talk about mental health and racism, not well, but we talk about it. I like Meghan Markle, dude. Like it was surprising to watch that interview with her and see like how much poise and how much honesty, and like I kind of want that in a queen. I would want that in a queen. I'd want that level of respect, honesty, a little bit of she was a little conservative. She didn't spill all. She didn't talk trash. She said that she forgave Kate when Kate made her cry, or she forgave her. She didn't want to share all the details. She was flexing like a queen.
Yeah.
So either make them royals here, or somebody take out Charles and Andrew. Andrew, what's his name? Who was the used to be hot one?
I don't know this family. William,
sorry. Ugh. Yeah, someone take out Charles and William and just make Harry and Meghan the royalty of both lands.
That's a great pick. I honestly didn't even think about it. So that's not only a great pick because, oh God, like if the royal family hasn't liked some of what they've done, imagine if that happened, how mad they'd be. And it's such a good pick that honestly, I think that would be a good premise for a show. Like maybe a fictionalized version of Meghan Markle but they actually like America has a constitutional amendment to make them, and then it's just drama between the two countries. I think that'd be pretty good.
Do you know how many people would watch that so hard? They would watch that.
Oh my God.
And it would be the most obnoxious thing.
Piers Morgan would just be crying the whole time, but he'd have to watch it.
Cannot do that. Yeah, I mean, the thing. If we had actual royalty, they're all, former slave owners. So hashtag canceled. And I'm kind of glad we don't.
Yeah,
I'm very glad we don't.
You're probably gonna hate mine, but I want to explain. My number one,
Iron Man.
Wait, like actual Iron Man or Robert Downey Jr.?
Thor.
No, it would not be Thor Iron Man.
Oh, is it Ragnarok?
Dumber than that. It's dumber than that. You know who I'd give it to? Just give it to the Trumps, honestly, at this point. Just give it to the Trumps, and here's why. First of all, they wouldn't be able to run for any other office, and they wouldn't need to. He only wants the ceremonial thing anyway, so give him the ceremonial thing. And he can go do what the Brits do, occasionally embarrass them, and the family will look inbred, and it'll be a perfect match right off the bat. Sure, they'll live their life of luxury, but they were gonna do that anyway. It's not like we're losing anything there. He loves gold and stuff. The parties would be lavish and boring, as I'm sure the royal ones in the UK are. I think and he'd be even more hounded by tabloids that would make his life a living hell, which is a great revenge to have on the Trumps. So I think it'd be a very natural fit. Just make them the royal family. Half of America would be obsessed with them. The other half would hate them, which is what we're at now. And it's basically what the UK's at. It's a perfect fit.
Yeah, Trump will be like, does this mean we get to intermarry? Is it finally okay for me to sleep with my daughter? Oh, that's not how it worked? Well, that's not fair.
Targaryen kings of old. Exactly. That would be my choice. Arguably yours is better. But anyway, who do you think should be American royalty? You can leave us a comment down below, and you can also make suggestions for future top 10 lists. We've got a few awesome ones that I'm looking forward to doing in the near future. But as always, Francesca, thank you for joining us for this.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you all for being members and making this possible. Really do appreciate that. We'll see you in the next one. The Department of Defense has a new report detailing the threat posed by members of the armed forces who are white supremacists. And joining us to break this down, what it might look like in the future, is the political director for Common Defense, Alex McCoy, joins us once again. Alex, welcome back to the show.
Glad to be here.
Glad to have you here. Wish we could be talking about something more positive, but unfortunately, you go to war with the white supremacists you have, not the white supremacists you wish you had. But anyway, what did you think about this report when you saw it? That they're making clear that this does exist. It is potentially a threat, that they could perform some sort of mass action. I think they're calling it some sort of very dangerous thing could happen.
Yeah, well, this is something that is not a surprise to rank and file troops. But it is good to see that at the highest level, the military is now acknowledging there's a problem and is committing to do something about it. It remains to be seen how serious they're going to be about that, though, and what steps are actually going to be taken that are going to address the systemic problem, not just make an example of a couple individuals.
Obviously, when you're trying to enter into the military, and I'm sure there's differences between the different branches, there are a variety of different ways that they screen people for different things. Is there anything that in theory could have gotten people who subscribe to white supremacy or other sorts of ideologies like that? What is that process like?
Well, the process at the current time is pretty minimal. Basically, what they're going to do is they're going to evaluate: do you have any tattoos that are known to be representative of extremist groups? So, for example, if you have a swastika tattoo or some other tattoo that is affiliated with a neo-Nazi organization, but that's obviously just a narrow segment of the people who have an extremist ideology that are going to have visible, permanent, markings on their body that indicate that. The other thing that they do is sort of very basic survey questions that are easy to lie about. They'll just be like, do you believe in overturning the US government, or something of that nature? Are you an extremist? And a lot of extremists will say, no, I'm not an extremist. I'm just a nationalist who believes in, protecting my race, right? Like, they're not going to self-identify like that. So really what is required is something a lot more thorough. And it requires defining extremism in a way that is actionable for recruiters and actionable for commanders, and is something that can be looked for in, for example, new recruits or current service members' social media postings. One of the things that we've been asking for the Department of Defense to do is conduct an audit of government search for people who are subscribed to extremist groups' email newsletters, because that's something that a lot of people are dumb enough to have subscribed using their government account. It's evidence that they can't delete. And it's something that is actionable, that is hard for them to deny.
That's certainly interesting. I instantly, when you start to propose things like that, I think of how some in the media or politicians might respond to it. I mean, I know, in the wake of the January 6th attack, there's cable shows with huge followings that are denying that white supremacy exists, let alone in the military. So do you think that if there were to be these new, something like what you're saying, the social media screening, emails and things like that, do you expect that there would be pushback against that?
Well, I certainly expect the party of Donald Trump to deny that this is a problem and to fight to uphold the rights of white extremists to get military training in how to kill people. But I think that doesn't mean that we should shy away from this problem, because the troops say that this is a big issue. The Military Times has conducted a poll of service members that found that 1 in 3 troops in uniform knew of a white nationalist in the ranks with them. And that was about 40% when you looked at just people of color who were serving in the ranks, who said that they knew or had seen white nationalism represented in the ranks around them. So I don't think that there is a necessarily huge percentage of the troops who are these extremists, but I think that a lot of troops encounter individual extremists in their units, and that we're not seeing the military do enough about this. There was recent reporting of a Marine in San Diego area who was given a very minor disciplinary slap on the wrist a couple years ago for being the chairman of a nationalist organization. And then that has since been revisited due to local newspaper reporting that revealed his activity. And now they are administratively separating this Marine. So this is a case of there was not enough taking this problem seriously in past years, and now we need to see the actual accountability take place.
Yeah, that's certainly interesting. And you mentioned that the overall message of this report would not come as a surprise to people who've served. So in practice, what is that like? Is that something that you've experienced? Does this mean are people just they feel just comfortable expressing these sorts of sentiments in casual conversation while deployed? How do people become aware of the fact that there are soldiers with these predispositions?
Well, I think it's in part a consequence of our forever wars that we've been fighting for the past 20 years. That people who have a racist, extremist ideology become attracted to the opportunity to go fight in these forever wars against communities of color in the Middle East, elsewhere. I think that we really need to end these wars in part because of the toxicity that it has brought to our society. I think that there's also just, a pervasive culture of lack of accountability and lack of scrutiny in the military that is starting to change, but needs more work. When I was serving in the Marine Corps between 2008 and 2013, there was a scandal where the elite scout sniper unit were using tattoos and flags that had the Waffen SS Nazi logo. They had adopted this Nazi iconography as a symbol of their sniper community. And this was something that, came out and wasn't a surprise to anyone who had been interacting with that community. But, it speaks to sort of a deeper rot of just thinking extremism is cool and not doing the training and the cultural work to make sure that these impressionable 18, 19-year-old kids that are joining the military are living up to the values that we want our military to uphold and understand what their oath to the Constitution is supposed to mean.
Wow, that's crazy. Actually, I missed that one. That is a crazy story. But finally, I want to ask you about what's at risk. So when we talk about the threat of there being white supremacists in the military, is this mainly a thing where we're worried that they will gain certain types of training and then after the military they'll use it in some capacity? Or is there also a threat of active duty soldiers potentially doing something?
Yeah, I think there are two risks, one physical and one to our culture. The physical one is obviously we do not want people who have an extremist, racist ideology to gain access to advanced combat training and weapon skills that then they will wield against innocent people. That's a big problem. We take this very seriously when it comes to gangs and criminal history. For example, we need to apply that same thing to these extremist ideas, these extremist political groups. There's also a big problem of these kinds of extremist, nationalist, racist groups trying to use an association with the military as a way to launder their ideology and make it seem more mainstream and seem like it's somehow inherent in being an American to have their extremist ideas. The military is a very highly trusted institution in polls. It is an institution that people associate with, defending your community, with public service, with sacrifice, with getting screwed by the system. And these ideas have a lot of, resonance with regular people. And so if you say people like me who serve in the military have these beliefs, that makes these beliefs seem more palatable to regular Americans. And so this is the big fear, right? You see these kind of anti-immigrant groups, these right-wing extremist groups, these anti-Muslim groups try to brag about how, pro-troops they are and how they're a bunch of veterans and that means that this is something inherently American to hold these ideas when that's very much not the case.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I actually hadn't been thinking about that component, so I'm glad that you mentioned it. Alex McCoy is the political director of Common Defense. Alex, as always, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your perspective.
Thanks, and if you're a veteran out there, sign up at commondefense.us/join.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Damage Report. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, John Adarola. I'll see you soon.